My name is Cory Lee. I'm from Vancouver. I moved out here to start doing the second album, my second album, but I've been singing all my life. I started singing when I was 8. I started recording stuff when I was 14, and I was in a girl group for a long time, and the classic story of right when we got offered the big American deal, one of the girls was like, I'm gonna get married and have a baby. And I thought my life was over then, but then that kind of, spurred me into doing Cory Lee solo stuff. So I just love singing and acting and entertaining, and it's the only thing that drives me, and that's the only thing I know how to do. And yeah, the first single hit radio. I'm currently, I'm like 24 in the country. We shot the video 2 weeks ago. I'm really excited. We see the first draft cut tomorrow, so I'm like, I can't wait to see something. And yeah, it'll be out really soon. And I film a TV show in Toronto called Instant Star. I have a supporting character on that, and her name is Karma. And she's kind of like the evil one. I come in and I'm saucy, I get to call Jude Harrison a whore, and it's fun. So
we asked to go in that direction.
I get thrown in a cake, just great fun stuff. So I'm so blessed to be able to do what I love to do, and it's just great. This year has been, it's crazy. The industry is crazy. There's so much politics. There's so much everything, and every section is so important, and there's so many things around that, and it's such a roller coaster. My life is such a crazy roller coaster. With every high, there's a low, and it's crazy. But it's amazing, and it's what I love to do. Radio, well, as an artist, as a new artist too, it's the first exposure usually radio. The first song I ever came out with was just on the radio, and that's what actually spurred me into getting a deal, because the industry is in such a strange place, I feel, right now, with internet and with downloading. There's not as much money as there used to be. I sent out packages and packages and packages of my first album. Nobody. Everyone's like, yeah, sounds good, but we don't know how to, whatever. And it wasn't until I paid a radio promoter out of my pocket. I was working a crappy job, that it's all of a sudden the Naughty song, all of a sudden was 30 in the country, and some of the labels that had kind of not really commented before, all of a sudden calling. So that is how I got my first deal. It wasn't a great deal, but it spurred me to where I am now. It's all baby steps, the industry's all baby steps. So radio for me is why I'm here. And each radio station is, there's bigger radio stations and smaller radio stations, but you have to have the key radio station in that city, in every city across Canada, or, some people won't even hear about you. And that's how people learned of Cory Lee, is because I had such great radio success on the first album, because everything else was lacking on the first album. I didn't have great marketing. I didn't have a good video presence. I never really got branded, and that is what has to happen in the next album. It has to be good branding. This video that we shot 2 weeks ago, it has to be on full rotation. If it's not, I won't succeed. I have to have good radio presence. I have to have good TV presence. There's so many areas. It has to be great marketing, great publicity. Everything has to come together in proper timing, or it won't happen.
Which is why I never sleep, ever.
I never sleep either. We are the captain of my ship. I am not an artist that sits back and is like, oh, that person can do that, and my publicist is, even though I have a great team, I gotta be on their asses as much as they're on my asses. So I could ramble on forever. But yes, radio is crazy important. I'm flying to Vancouver on the 15th to go visit the radio stations in Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary. I've gone across the country twice and visited most of the radio stations, because it's like personal relationships, because each station has a program director, and it's up to each station what they add. They don't have to add you. They have to like you and like the song to add you. And you know, we're waiting on now, like No Shoes, No Shirt, the first single. Yeah, I was so blessed, you know, so many radio stations came on board right away, but we're still, you know, knocking on doors of other radio stations. And so many radio stations are reactionary. You know, there's not a lot of radio stations I find in Canada that will jump the gun and add a brand new artist with a great song. So many stations kind of sit back and are like, well, let's watch the numbers. Are they charting? And you know, I'm blessed to be charting, and so some of those reactionary stations will add me now, but it's crazy, it's politics, it's amazing, and you need that, you need radio.
One of the interesting areas with radio for the second record is that we went from being completely independent to our partner for distribution in some of our key marketing areas is Universal Music Group Canada, and in particular Paul Jessup, who heads up a big portion of the music promotion at Universal, is having a love fest with us and truly believes in Cory and her talent. And that makes a big difference in terms of getting the attention of radio. But in Canada, what's very interesting, because I'm American, and I was recruited to come up here to work with Cory, and we have a history prior to this, so it made sense. Canada is very different from the United States because Canada is still the wild, wild west. It's still a free-for-all in FM radio, whereas in the United States, it's pretty much driven by 3 or 4 radio promoters for the entire country, working through Clear Channel, Intercom, and a couple other smaller conglomerates. So what's unusual about what's going on with Cory up here is that most of the radio in Canada is decided station by station, and some are reactionary, as she said, but a lot of it is dictated by what the taste is in America and these strong companies in America that are dictating radio in America. So the fact that she's cutting through all that is very, very good. We're happy about that.
One good thing about radio in Canada for a Canadian artist is they have to play a certain percentage of CanCon,
Right.
which kind of goes to your favor and not to your favor because they'll only per se add 1 CanCon ad a week. So say I'm up against 1 week, I'll be up against Keisha Shante, I'll be up against Headley, like, and they can only add a certain amount of CanCon per week. But at the same time, if they really like that CanCon song, they play it till it's crazily overplayed, like a Nelly Furtado song where you're like, promiscuous girl, again? But they like it because they have to play a certain percentage, and if they don't like anything else at that time,
Right.
they're just gonna like knock it home till everyone hates
It's a
it.
quick question.
Yes.
Okay. Growing up, who inspired you to like become an entertainer? And besides your own music, what kind of music do you listen to now?
Wow, I could talk forever about this, but I started singing in musical theater, and so a lot of like people like when I was really young and I first started singing, being Asian, it was like everyone was like, "Oh, you're gonna be Miss Saigon. One day you're gonna be Miss Saigon." Like that's it. The only lead in a musical is Miss Saigon for you. Seriously, this is what like every musical theater teacher told me. And like in Vancouver, like it's like, you know, 60% Asian. There's a lot of Asian people in Vancouver. Well, I'm only half, but you know. So Leah Salgana was one of my big influences. It sounds random, but I really, really admired her. And just in musical theater, how people are actual entertainers. You know, they do everything. They can do everything. They can sing, they can act, they can dance. That is kind of where I feel I made my foundation, and then people in my life, like my mom was a really big influence for me. And I listened to everything. Like obviously my love is like R&B and hip hop. That's what I gravitate to. But
Who's your favorite artist?
my favorite artist of all time is Aaliyah. I love Aaliyah. I loved Aaliyah. She just was a great entertainer. She could do everything. And, you know, obviously growing up, I loved Michael Jackson. I loved Madonna. I think every young girl loved Madonna. They wanted to wear what she was wearing. And those are my big influences. And
One of the interesting things about Cory's voice is that if you really listen, and I know since you'll all be running to the store to get this record, if you really listen to Cory's voice, she has a very clean, beautiful tone, which is unusual for many singers in this day. She has perfect pitch. There's just things about her that are just very clean And one of the things we decided was not to apologize for that, not to try to dirty her up or make her into something she's not, and allow who she is and where she comes from musically to shine on all these songs. And so there's an interesting thing about that when you do that, because and this creates originality, because you have this clean tone, but Cory's message sometimes in some of her songs can be highly sexual.
Right, and that was leading to my other question.
Which I find very interesting.
Oh, shit. The song, what is it? No shoes, no shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah, where the inspiration for that song?
Okay, this is...
Explain what it's about.
Oh, the last album I really liked was Keisha Cole. Amazing album, go buy it. Anyway, the message from No Shoes, No Shirt, No Service. Well, this is a funny story. Growing up in high school, my girlfriends, I always picked boys that, you know, always had a car and would buy me things. And my nickname was No Cash, No Car, No Cory. And so when we started, and it's funny because in the song I say no cash, no car, no coochie, because they didn't want me to say my name. They're like, oh, it's not as generic, like not everyone would understand.
Yeah, coochie's like a universal thing.
Yeah, coochie, everyone understands.
Well, we've been making it. We're actually.
What's funny is that I'm not a gold digger. Everyone's like, you're a gold digger now, Cory. I'm like, I'm not a gold digger. That's the funny thing is.
Believe me, she's not.
The last few boys that I've been associated with definitely don't put me in the gold digger category.
But what's funny is that, you know, this word coochie, which is a very, very old word, and we all know what
I feel like everyone
means.
says coochie.
Yeah,
But it's a
coochie's
very
a
old
big
word.
thing, though, like-
It's been around forever. We've been threatening a sticker campaign, a very anonymous sticker campaign, just called "I'm Bringing Coochie Back," because because the word has some very old school ramifications to it.
It's been around a while, but like, what do you want me to say? Like,
Don't say
I don't
it.
want to. But you know the other words. They are just pretty.
Well, I'm not really familiar with your music, so I was
That's
just wondering if you can give us like a little sample.
Yeah.
What am I singing?
No shoes, no shirt.
Can you sing the chorus? Sorry, you can-
I don't care. I'm just running. It's like, no shoes, no shirt, no surface, no game, no gold, no me, no cash, no car, no coochie, 'cause no one comes for free. Yeah.